Hi, I'm Brian.
I'm Melissa.
And in today's video, we wanted to share with you some of the frustrations we have in our RV, and you guys probably have it too, related to just the lack of power receptacles, whether it's plugging something into an AC outlet or having, need to plug in like a USB cord to something.
Right, and if you've used your RV long enough, you're going to get a sense of where exactly you need some extra power. I know for us, we figured out it was in the kitchen area, near the floor. The only outlet we had was above a cabinet.
It's a pain.
Yeah. Also next to the bed, being able to plug in your tablets, your cell phones, and up front in the cab also to have enough outlets to be able to plug in our phones, tablets, other devices.
What I wanted to show you in this video is what we've done in our RV to kind of update, the location of some of these things, especially for USB plugs and things like that. And also I want to show you how you can actually extend an existing circuit and add an AC receptacle, and we'll fix this whole kitchen problem. So that's what we're going to talk about today. This video is sponsored by 3-in-1 RV Care Lubricants. They're the makers of the Slide Out Silicone Lube, Window and Track Dry Lube, and Lock Dry Lube. Now, these are the lubricants that I keep on hand in my RV to care for all of those moving parts that need periodic lubricating and protection. Now you can check them out at 3in1.com. That's the number 3in1.com. Now I'll be back later in this video to share more about how we use these products in our RV. So let's start out with talking about USB charging, because if you're like us, you've acquired a lot of these little devices like a tablet, cell phone, USB. You got smartwatches, you got Fitbit, you got Apple Watch. All these things need to be charged up on a regular basis. Our older RV did not come with any USB plugs, so over time you've acquired maybe some of these, probably got more than one. I was looking for a more permanent solution instead of having all these little extras plugged in, many of those requiring AC power like this first. So I wanted something that I can actually plug in, and it's always going to be powered from my house batteries. And over time, we figured out where we need them the most, and one of those areas is back in the bedroom. Not having a USB connection here by the bed, which is where we typically like to, keep our phones charged through the night, or, whatever else we have to recharge, that really became an issue because, we had to get up and go somewhere. So it was a perfect spot to actually wire up, some sort of permanent USB fixture. I ended up using these USB receptacles from Blue Sea Systems that are high-powered 5-volt fast charging receptacles. They're marine grade. They work really well, and they're really kind of rugged and solid. And I ended up spending a little bit more money for them. They're a little bit more expensive because they're a little higher quality, and they run about $30 each. You don't need thick wire, so I ended up going with just like a 14 gauge stranded wire, just a positive and a negative. And under the bed, I was able to just splice into an existing circuit, and I grounded the negative and just ran those two wires under the bed and up to this location here on the side, and just a positive and negative connector on the back. What's nice about this is that these things are powered all the time now, since they're wired directly to the battery. So whether it's through the night or during the day or while we're driving, we can just leave things back here to charge and or just get power, whatever kind of power you need. And of course, I have one of those installed on each side of the bed, and since this is Melissa's side, that one got installed first. Now the other area where we needed a lot of extra USB connections were up in the cab area, because we have a lot of things that we tend to plug in while we're driving, and let me show you what I'm talking about. So over the years up here in the cab, I've accumulated a lot of additional things that we started just plugging in here, and just about everything plugged into one of these like 12-volt cigarette lighter kind of connections. But yeah, I have a dash cam, I have my rear view camera up here that I ended up replacing from the stock OEM one. I have a GPS, and I have this brake system monitor for my tow car. So all those things is just a lot of cords, and I wanted to clean that all up because it was starting to drive me crazy. And it turns out last year my radio, the original stock radio that came with the RV, just went out. So I went out and bought on Amazon a really cheap, nice little one here. And while I had that torn out, I thought I'd go ahead and rewire some of the connections back here and install some of those Blue Sea USB connections. What I found is that a lot of the stuff that I actually have plugged in can also run off of a standard USB connector. When Melissa's on the other side, I wanted her to be able to plug in her phone and tablet or whatever she needs while we're driving down the road. Now I also wanted to run my rear view camera here and my dash cam off of my house batteries, because in many cases I like to keep these running without the engine running, so I use it as a like a security camera, because the dash cam is really cool. It just kind of continuously records, so if I'm you know, parked in a weird spot or at a rest stop, I can just keep that running and it just records and loops through there. So, you know, great little security device as well. But I needed to be able to run off of my house batteries to do that. Now, it was actually easier to get power from the house batteries than I thought it was going to be. I thought I would have to run a cable all the way to the back. But I forgot that I actually had this emergency start switch down here, which, you know, is designed to kind of jumper the two battery banks in case one of them were to die. So there was already power to the front. There's a relay just on the other side of the firewall here that sends. That's also got a connection to this switch right here, this emergency start switch. So I could just wire right into this emergency start switch, and there is a DC 12-volt connection on the back of that one end of that switch that I could tie into and get power from the house batteries. So it worked out really, really well. Now finally, what I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to switch the power from the house batteries off and on to these devices. So instead of just wiring in that USB connector, I wanted to be able to switch the power on and off. So I also installed these switches here, and I have 3 switches. One of them is for a USB connector over here, so I'll turn that on, and you can probably hear it. It's going to power on my my backup, or my my dash cam and my GPS, and then this one here is going to power up my rear cam and the USB port on Melissa's side. That basically allows me to just, without having started the engine or anything or have the battery connected, I can power those things whenever I wanted to. And then when I wasn't needing them anymore, I could just simply turn it off. Now these switches I went ahead and make red, so I know that the red ones are actually for the house batteries. Now this third one is running off of the chassis battery, and I just have some lights connected to that. So if I turn that on, a little blue light, and I have at night I have some nice little blue lighting here, so I can see around the area at night without obstructing my view or vision out the windshield. Now let's talk about this whole AC outlet situation in the RV, because it's been an issue for us since day one, and I know there are some definite frustrations that I know all of us face, especially with the location of some of these outlets. And so before I get to it, I'm going to show you how to install one of these self-contained little dual receptacles to extend an existing circuit, and it's really not that complicated. But before I do, I want to give you a little backstory and tell you what I've done already. Now in the front of our RV, when we bought it, it just really didn't come with any outlets except one. That outlet's located underneath the dinette, and it's the only place to plug stuff in the entire front of the coach. So that's always been an issue for us, and as we plug stuff in there, you know, we get cords everywhere and they're just running everywhere. It's just a giant mess. One thing I've done recently actually is to install a power strip underneath the table in the dinette, so I can just have one plug go into that plug there, and then I also drilled a hole in the top of the table so that I could just feed through the cords that we need on the top, because what was happening was, we just get this mess of cords on top of the table where we're trying to work, especially if you got like computers and chargers and all this stuff. Giant mess. So that's been a big help. I've also installed one of those receptacles before in the front of the dinette, kind of facing towards the cab area, because I found it's been handy, especially now that we've got an inverter. We typically can have it on while we're driving, and it's nice to be able to plug in AC stuff, 120 volt stuff, while we're driving in the front and have it accessible. Also in the wintertime, it's a nice place to be able to plug in a battery tender so that I can trickle charge my chassis battery. So I just have that plugged in inside the RV, since the RV is powered during the winter, and I can just run a cable out that I already have it wired into the battery. So that's been really handy as well. Now the other point of frustration that we've always had, and I know a lot of you guys have had this as well, is the location of the outlets actually in the kitchen area, because they're not conveniently located for us, maybe for the manufacturer, because they're located underneath the cabinets here, and which is maybe convenient for the manufacturer because that's where all the wiring is, but it's really not convenient for us. So when we have a coffee pot or a toaster or something like that, we've got all these cords hanging from the cabinets. And oftentimes in the winter, I like to use a space heater up here as well. So that's a problem, because now I have a space heater on the floor. Here it is. And in order to plug it in, I have to set the space heater on the floor. And now I have this cord that's just hanging. It's a safety hazard, it's ugly, so we're gonna fix that today and actually mount a receptacle down here lower, right below the countertop, and that's gonna allow us to hook up maybe a space heater or even a vacuum cleaner without having to plug it in to the cabinet. I know that there's a GFCI circuit, so that's where I want to hook it into. That GFCI circuit basically powers the outlet in the bathroom, as well as the two outlets here in the kitchen area. So that's the one that I want to tie into. Now that I located where I'm going to put the receptacle, I'm going to cut a hole there. Then I'm going to kill the power, and I'm going to disconnect the bathroom GFCI outlet. I went ahead and picked up some 14-2 Romex wire or cable for this job, and then I'm going to run the cable through there, through the wall, underneath the sink, and into this kitchen area and to this location here where I'm going to be able to wire up the new receptacle. Now while I'm working on that, let me take a moment and reintroduce you to the sponsor for this video, 3-in-1 RV Care Lubricants. I regularly use the slide out silicone lube on the slide out mechanisms. It dries quickly and doesn't collect debris, and it also has some great waterproofing characteristics that I found are very useful in other areas that tend to get a lot of exposure to rain, like the compartment hinges and areas like that. And on the windows, we always thought that stuck and squeaky windows are something that we just had to deal with until we started using the window track dry lube. And now just a little squirt in there every once in a while keeps those windows moving nice and smooth. A few times a year, I also take the lock dry lube and I squirt a little bit in all the keyholes and on my door locks as well as my compartment locks to keep those key mechanisms working really well throughout the year. And that's the product that I found that really works the best out of everything I've tried. You can get them at Walmart in the RV section. That's where I got mine. And you can also find them on Amazon. I'll provide a affiliate link if you guys would like to use that. Thanks again to 3-in-1 RV Care for sponsoring this video and supporting this channel. And you guys can go check them out at 3in1.com, the number 3in1.com. Okay, now that I got the cable run from the outlet here in the bathroom into the kitchen area, I can go ahead and hook up the receptacles, and you know, we're close to getting this thing done. But I should mention that if this kind of thing is freaking you out and you're thinking, I'm not going to do that kind of wiring, that's okay, because the goal here is just to kind of have an idea of what you might want to do, where you might want to add this outlet. But you could always you know, hit up a friend for some help, or even hire it out if you don't feel comfortable doing this kind of work. And I've done a lot of wiring in my house, so I feel comfortable doing this. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and hook up this receptacle here in the bathroom, just kind of splice into it, and then I'll move into the kitchen and get this thing wrapped up. Okay, now the last step is to hook up this receptacle here. Now this is a different kind of receptacle, and it's a self-contained one, but it's pretty easy to set up. Now I'm going to demonstrate how we're going to do this with this spare piece of wire here. Now these are just going to be pinched in each of these terminals here, connections I guess. So it's labeled the black. So black on this one, you see that? Black's going to go here. The ground, the bare copper ground wire is going to go in the middle, and then the white is going to go on that side. So I'm going to strip these back, and then we're going to push them in the slot here, and then we're going to close up the back. Just like that. These are in there. They're pushed down into these blades pretty well, so now we can go ahead and attach the back. This piece here just locks onto the back and presses everything down, holds it in place. Snaps when it's all done. Okay. There we go. Okay, all set. I'm just gonna give it a little test, make sure we're all wired up correctly, and use my little circuit tester here. So just plug it in, and I'm going to turn on the breaker. 2 orange lights here are going to indicate that we are good to go. I'm going to go hit the breaker. All right. So yeah, we're good to go. This circuit is up and running and ready to use. All of the changes that I've showed you today in this video, you know, we've gotten a tremendous amount of benefit from, and it's really improved the way we use our RV, because they've all been done based on our own learning experiences and figuring out where our RV is lacking for power, and making those changes that really are going to impact, you know, our RV experience. So I'm sure you guys will have the same result. Now, if you have suggestions and ideas and of what you might do to your RV, or how we could have done this different or better, please leave a note in the comments below, and look forward to checking those out. But hey, check this out. Got a space heater plugged in. We're good to go. Hope Melissa likes it. See you guys in the next one.